take a breath. Because what we've covered so far is just the surface architecture, the persona, the shadow, the fear-driven patterns. In part two, we go underground. We look at the deeper mechanisms, the ones operating completely outside of people's awareness, the ones that make you think someone is choosing to behave the way they do, when in reality, they have no idea they're doing it at all. Stay with me, because part two is where it gets extraordinary. You've met someone who always ends up in the same painful situation. Different faces, different names, different circumstances, but somehow the same devastating outcome. You've probably wondered, how does that keep happening? Jung had an answer. He called it the repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate the emotional conditions of our past because the psyche is always trying to resolve what it couldn't resolve then. People are not making bad choices. They are following an invisible script written in the earliest chapters of their life. And until that script is seen, it will keep running on a loop. Secret 7. People recreate their wounds, looking for a different ending. The person who grew up feeling invisible seeks out relationships where they are neglected, and then fights for recognition. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because something deep inside them is still trying to win the love they couldn't win from the original source. The person who was controlled seeks out controlling partners. The person who was abandoned keeps finding people who leave. This isn't stupidity. It's the psyche's desperate attempt to master an old wound. So when you see someone locked in a painful pattern, don't ask why they keep making the same mistake. Ask what unresolved wound is pulling them back to the same fire. Secret 8. Their relationship with authority mirrors their relationship with their father. Jung was explicit about this. The way someone relates to authority, to bosses, to institutions, to power structures, is almost never rational. It is emotional. It is old. It is personal. The person who is reflexively rebellious toward every authority figure isn't reacting to the person in front of them. They're reacting to every time they were controlled without care, punished without reason, or made to feel powerless. The person who is compulsively obedient isn't simply agreeable. They may have learned very early that challenging authority was not safe. Watch how someone relates to power. It will tell you their entire relationship with their father, or whoever first held power over them. Secret 9. How they treat vulnerability reveals everything. This is perhaps the most revealing test Jung offers. Not how someone behaves when they're comfortable, how they behave when they're confronted with someone else's pain or weakness. Do they lean in or step back? Do they soften or stiffen? Do they offer presence, or do they immediately problem solve to escape the discomfort? The person who mocks vulnerability in others has almost always been punished for showing it themselves. The person who can sit with someone else's pain without flinching has done the inner work of sitting with their own. Vulnerability is a mirror, and how someone reacts to it shows you exactly how much grace they've been able to extend to their own broken places. Secret 10. The mask cracks at the edges of their biggest defense. Everyone has one primary defense, one strategy the psyche developed early to stay safe. For some, it's humor. Deflect anything painful with a joke before it can land. For some, it's intellectualization. Turn every emotional experience into a theoretical discussion so it can never actually be felt. For some, it's withdrawal. Disappear before you can be hurt or rejected. Here's the thing about defenses. They're visible, especially under pressure. Watch what someone does the moment a conversation gets emotionally real. Do they suddenly get very busy? Very analytical? Very funny? Very quiet? That pivot, that shift away from the emotional moment, is their primary defense showing its hand. And behind every primary defense is the wound it was built to protect. Secret 11. Anger is almost never about what it claims to be about. Jung understood anger as a secondary emotion, meaning it almost always sits on top of something else, something more tender, something more exposed. Underneath most anger is fear. Underneath most rage is grief. Underneath most bitterness is a longing that was denied so long it curdled. So when someone erupts disproportionately, when the anger is too big for the moment, look underneath it. They are not angry about what they say they're angry about. They are angry about what they couldn't say, couldn't fix, or couldn't survive a very long time ago. Secret 12. The qualities they idealize in others are the ones they've abandoned in themselves. Jung called this the golden shadow. The unconscious brilliance we project outward onto people we admire or even worship. When someone places another person on an impossibly high pedestal, when their admiration crosses into obsession, they are often looking at a reflection of their own unlived potential. The parts of themselves they were told were too much, too ambitious, too sensitive, too bold, too free. They exiled those qualities, and now they ache when they see them embodied in someone else. So when you want to understand what someone has abandoned inside themselves, watch who they worship, because you'll see the version of themselves they were too afraid to become. By now you're beginning to see it, the invisible architecture beneath every interaction, every behavior as a message, every pattern as a piece of autobiography. But part 3 is where we arrive at the soul of it all. Because Jung didn't just want us to read people, he wanted us to understand what all of this means for how we relate, how we connect, and most importantly, how we see ourselves. The final 5 secrets are the ones that change not just how you observe others, they change how you live.